Hello and welcome to Everyday Lessons Every Day. I'm David McBee. Based on my book by the same name, this podcast is for those of us who believe in personal growth and want to improve every day. This is episode 8, The Extra Mile. One of the unexpected pleasures of doing this podcast has been that it allows me to see the best in the people around me. Unlike my book, which was specifically about everyday lessons that I was learning and implementing, this podcast gives me the opportunity to highlight the actions of others. Today, I get to tell you about Ann Krause, who is a fellow internet marketing trainer, and she's pure awesome sauce. Last month, she took on the responsibility of producing our monthly webinar. I'm working on another project, and she stepped up and delivered a great piece of work. I helped a little with the outline and the script, but she pretty much handled it without leaning on me very much. When she sent over the completed project, I knew how much work had gone into it. By that time, she had written a complete script, recorded the audio, built a PowerPoint with some help from our fantastic graphic designers, merged the deck with the audio, and edited all the glitches to produce a polished, ready-to-go webinar. Honestly, it was a little late for me to provide feedback. It was the day before the webinar was to go live, so it wasn't a good time to ask her for changes. But being the perfectionist with high standards that I am, I came up with over a page of notes. I knew it was bad timing, and I knew that it meant redoing a lot of the work she had already done. Before I continue the story, let's talk about me and one of my, shall we call them growth opportunities? I talk about it a lot in the book, that my way isn't always the right way, and that I should learn to not sweat the small stuff. I talk about the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, and how it helped me to put things into perspective, focusing my energy on things that are truly important. So, I looked at my notes, and I asked myself if I was being too picky or if the changes were necessary to put out a quality product. I came to the conclusion that my standards are impossibly high, and more importantly, no one else watching the webinar would notice any of the things that I had. I nearly threw out my notes, but decided to hang on to them and give Ann the choice. I told her that she had done a great job on the webinar, and that our audience would love it, but like me, she has high standards, so she pressed me for honest feedback. I told her about the page of notes, but I also told her that none of them were vital to the production. I think I said, I'm probably the only person who would notice most of these things, so I don't want you to feel like you have to redo any of it. The only thing I might ask is maybe turn down the intro music in the beginning because it's a little hard to hear your voice. I figured that was a change that she could knock out in less than 10 minutes. She agreed, saying that she had noticed the same thing. Then she asked me to send her the notes so that she could decide which of them might make sense to implement. I stressed to her again that she didn't have to change anything if she didn't want to. The production was already head and shoulders above most webinars, and my notes were super picky. Well, I'm guessing that based on the title of this episode, you probably know where I'm going with this. And you're right. Several hours later, Ann sent me an updated version of the webinar that had taken into account nearly every note I had provided. She basically had to rewrite portions of the script, rebuild parts of the PowerPoint deck, re-record sections of the audio, re-edit, and reproduce nearly the whole thing. She had gone the extra mile by choice. Did I mention that she's awesome sauce? Generally speaking, I think this is a commodity that is lacking in most individuals. I think a lot of people just do the bare minimum to get by. And I'm not judging, I'm really not. And I'm not afraid of offending you, Mr. or Mrs. Listener, because I already know that's not you. You wouldn't be seeking everyday lessons every day if you just wanted to do the minimum. But I also know that we all have our moments when we're not the best versions of ourselves, and that everyday lessons are great reminders that help us to get back on track. And I hope this story about Ann inspires you to go the extra mile. By the way, when I was hiring Ann, her former boss told me, "You'll be sorry if you don't hire her," which totally pushed me off the fence about her. Clearly, she's been a go the extra mile woman for a long time, and that was a big part of what landed her the job. Finally, I want to give a shout out to Rebecca Kennedy, my Peloton instructor, who inspired me to talk about going the extra mile. During our workout, she said, "The extra mile is never crowded." And she's right. Most people don't go the extra mile, and maybe that's the difference between most people and extraordinary people. And so I challenge you. Write the words extra mile on your wrist. Be a part of that elite few and far between that do more than is asked of you. Even if you're not trying to get a promotion or a new job right now, going the extra mile today could turn into the thing that helps you achieve that goal in the future. Let me know what happens when you implement this lesson. I'll see you next time. Now go out there and do something awesome.